It's too late. And he's going to get in trouble again, and this is going to look bad for the NBA. Because they went from 8 games to 25 games. That seems very incremental to me. Now, I understand John Morant wasn't doing anything illegal, but you have to understand the impact. Sorry, Charles Barkley, NBA players are gigantic role models, and what they do is important. But that's why their shoes sell so much. Kids want to wear John Morant's shoes. So I think it is important to not be having a gun carelessly on social media. So I think it's really important, and I think that I don't see any real contrition from John Morant. I don't believe his apology, and I don't see why he would change. I think something else is going to happen, and the NBA is going to have egg on their face.
Man, I mean, here's my question for the NBA now. Yeah. What is the biggest issue facing the NBA in terms of what really ticks off the customer? What really makes the customer upset?
Oh, okay. So what
makes the customer more upset than anything?
I know.
What?
I know where you're going.
Yeah. Load management.
Yeah. Oh,
not
it's the worst.
Playing games, right? Superstars specifically not playing in games. Sometimes it's because they actually are injured or nursing injuries. Okay, that's one thing. But other times it's preventative. It's because you want to save guys for the postseason, or you don't want a guy playing on back-to-backs or whatever it is. So what did you do here? You gave John Morant a 25-game suspension. That's no longer a punishment. I'm sorry, that's a strategy now. It's not a punishment, it's a strategy. So him not playing for 25 games doesn't do anything. And then him getting fined doesn't do anything. He's going to miss 25 games, of course. So that's $7.5 million that he's going to miss out on next year. But, whoa, $7.5 million. He's making $33.5. So he's still coming out really well here, and that's just year one of a contract that's going to eventually pay him over $200 million. So to me, where's the punishment? You can put out the statements, you can do all that, but the NBA doesn't have any recourse here because missing games now doesn't mean jack squat, and losing money never meant anything to the guys who are really making tons of money. So you're in an impossible situation. Whether it happens again or not, I have no idea. I hope it doesn't. But this is a disaster for the NBA, and it's their own fault because they're the only sport now where not playing is a strategy, where not playing is almost a reward as opposed to a punishment. I was listening to Doc Rivers was on the Bill Simmons podcast. We played a couple of the clips yesterday about coaching James Harden was a challenge. Anyway, they were having a conversation about the process and about Joel Embiid, and I'm not going to blame Philadelphia here specifically, but he said that Joel Embiid got so used to not playing that it had to almost be rewired and reworked in his brain, and I don't think Joel Embiid is the exception here. I think for some guys, if you come into the league and you're in a load management type of situation, you get used to not playing. And the idea that you'd go 65 games, let alone 82, can become really foreign. So now Ja's going to miss time. Great. And Memphis, this is fine for them.
Well, I understand what you're saying all on the surface. Yeah, of course. But here's the thing. 25 games, it's going to happen again. Then what happens?
Well, I mean, then Adam Silver's got a really big problem. Can I read you some details about what happened and why they even got 25 games? And remember when Adam Silver, he did talk about during the investigation sort of finding new details, and that's what sort of got us on edge, like, wow, how long could the suspension actually be? So here's what part of the press release said today. The league office found that on May 13th, Morant intentionally and prominently displayed a gun while in a car with several other individuals as they were leaving a social gathering in Memphis. Morant wielded the firearm while knowing that he was being recorded and that the recording was being live streamed on Instagram Live, despite having made commitments to the NBA and public statements that he would not repeat the conduct for which he was previously disciplined. He knew he was on IG. Like, that was the other thing. People were wondering whether his friend sort of put the camera on him and he didn't know, and it, was this, he did this again and it was purposeful. I agree with you that I think it's light, like, to really send a message in this day and age, in the NBA. I think if it's anything less than 50 games, it almost doesn't matter.
Yeah, and even 50 might not make that big a difference. Yeah, but you're exactly right. The regular season is meaningless.
That's crazy.
Totally meaningless. Here's the question, I think, for Adam Silver and for John Morant. Like, how bad, okay, you're a commissioner, Maggie. How bad was this act? To me, it was pretty bad, even though it wasn't illegal. And I understand there are a lot of people who own guns and feel strongly about guns.
Yeah.
But this is so different. I mean,
so reckless.
And also the fact that it's so close, 25 is so close to 8. And the 8 was a joke. You and I made fun of that all the time.
Yeah.
I said yesterday's show that I thought it was going to be the whole season. Man, was I wrong. I feel like isn't the NBA setting themselves up to look terrible here?
If he keeps doing this kind of thing.
Because it's not just the guns, too. It was all those other stories about him harassing teenagers and causing trouble at a mall. So I think that something else is going to happen because he's not changing.
Well, and that's the point, is that this discipline, I'm going to put air quotes around it.
Yeah.
This discipline punishment is toothless. And it used to mean something when guys missed games. That used to mean something. It doesn't anymore. It doesn't anymore because the NBA has changed. Like in the NFL, you miss games. It's a big deal. College football, you miss games. It's a big deal. It doesn't matter in the NBA. The games stopped mattering long ago. Ironically, the playoffs mean something, but the regular season games don't mean anything.
Well, if this was the NFL, this would be less than a third of the season. So it would be how many games? Help me out with the math here. How many times does 3 go into 17? We're smart. So it'd be 5 games.
Yeah.
I mean, if
5-game suspension. I mean, Deshaun Watson got 11.
Yeah, but they also counted the season before to some extent, I think. Yeah, I mean, that's not big, though. 5 games is not season changing. I mean, Jameson Williams getting 6 for gambling. I saw a lot of people tweeting Calvin Ridley got a year for doing a $1,500 parlay.
Yeah.
So you're right. It's so light, and it's even lighter in the NBA. I think in MLB, by the way, 10 games for a pitcher is not a huge deal either. But
well, depends what kind of pitcher. If it's a starter, you're only missing 2 starts. Right. If it's a relief pitcher, you might miss more.
Yeah, this is nothing. I'd like to hear more from Silver. And I'd like to hear, did you buy Ja's apology?
No, I mean, you can't. He just did the same thing in May.
Yeah.
Or what? Yeah, what was this? No, when was the original one? Was in March, I believe.
Yeah.
When, you did the whole sit down with Jalen Rose. Of course not. We said this at the time. If he actually went to, I don't want to call it a rehab facility. He went to some therapeutic facility. Remember? That was the story the first time around. And got out 8 days later and was fine. He should be the biggest self-help guru on the face of the earth. We all got so many problems right now in our society. If John Morant could get his life cleaned up in 8 days, he'd be like a cult figure because people would only want to know what did you do? And we'd all follow him to the end of the earth. This was always nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing, too, about John Morant, I wonder, he was definitely under the influence when he was at the strip club, right?
Appeared.
And I don't know if he was under the influence in the car.
I don't know. He wasn't driving, so.
He wasn't driving, but your mind immediately goes, ooh, does this guy have some problems that need specific addressing? And if he doesn't get those problems, is he going to, with substances or booze or whatever?
Yeah,
who
the
knows?
root of the cause.
Right, he needs to do something serious, like life change. It seems like he could use a real 180 on whatever he's doing. And I totally agree with you. 25 games is not enough a season would have sent that message home more clearly. So 25 games is, I mean, does this help the Grizzlies? Because they're awesome when he's on the bench anyway. They win at a 60% clip when Morant doesn't play.
And they don't have to pay him.
Are we now putting the Grizzlies into the finals because Ja's going to be so well rested?
Thomas L's in the chat, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio. He said, this is just about enough time to take a long sailing cruise and return as the healthiest player in the NBA. Yeah. Listen, guys take off 25 games without even trying. And, and not even thinking about it. So this was a real doozy. And here's the thing. This commissioner, Adam Silver, will probably go down as the most player-friendly commissioner maybe in the history. I can't think of anyone in my lifetime who's been more player-friendly than Adam Silver. In the sense that this is not Goodell coming in as the sheriff.
Right.
This is not... some David Stern would get after you.
Hardcore. Remember, I'm thinking that Suns Spurs playoff series. He never gave anybody a break.
Dude, he did not mess around, David Stern, and he would even call reporters and scream at them. I don't think Adam Silver's doing anything like that. I might be wrong, but I don't think so. And I think that Silver understands, like, he's in a unique position, too, where the stars are the game. So he's got to have, it's got to feel more like a punishment, or excuse me, a partnership, a partnership than maybe any other sport where it can feel a little bit more like the principal.
I totally agree, and I know that reputation. Here's a question. Is that player-friendly attitude going to end up hurting Silver when you think of legacy? I mean, for example, what if Morant screwed this up? I think Silver would open himself up to a lot of criticism as being too player-friendly.
Okay, but here's the thing. The person has to be responsible for their actions. Okay. You know, Adam Silver is not John Morant's dad. You know, it's like he's not his boss either, quite frankly.
Yeah, and he is. Who's Team Morant a doppelganger for Ja Rule?
No, for Usher.
For Usher, yeah. Adam Silver is not an Usher lookalike.
No.
But this thing about, you know, we were looking at some other suspensions today. He does seem like on the light side. Goodell and the fight. What's the biggest criticism Goodell ever got? I think for not being hard enough on Ray Rice. You know,
ironically, he was very harsh when he first got into the league, and then the Ray Rice was a real departure.
And it was a huge mistake,
massive mistake. He suspended for 2 games. Right. Then the video came.
So I think a commissioner for being too player friendly really opens himself up legacy wise to go down a notch.
You know, can I just say one other thing about you mentioned it before, Perloff, is about John Morant didn't do anything illegal and that he could own this gun legally and Tennessee can be an open carry state or whatever. But I would, and that's all fair points, but I would like to think that sane and reasonable people in this country, even the ones who's the most staunch gun advocate and staunch Second Amendment person, would still understand the difference between owning a gun and waving one around in the front seat of a car. Or waving one around in a strip club or inside any club. It doesn't matter, right? Like, even the person who is so staunch on the Second Amendment has to understand the difference of responsible gun ownership and completely risky behavior, right? No,
absolutely. I totally agree with that. Also, you have to understand you are influencing people who are not old enough to own guns, who might aspire to use a gun. I agree with you, recklessly. Yeah. You know, this is no kind of behavior. If you're trying to, even if you're all about legal gun ownership, this is not the message you want to be sending. But this is how you handle a gun. It's not. And you're 100% right.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. 25 games for John Morant. If you'd like to weigh in on this, you are welcome to. You want to watch the show? Come on in. It's nice and cozy inside the chat, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio. You can also follow along on our incredible CBS Sports Radio affiliates. The free Odyssey app is amazing, and it's crystal clear. If you're going through patchy areas of the country, services in and out, radios in and out, just download the Odyssey app. It stays with you the whole time. Also, Sirius XM channel 158. All right, coming up, Derek Carr explains why things went south with the Raiders at the end. Is he right or just making excuses? Get to that in just a moment. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.